I went to the city of Istanbul in 1997, and I was there for 2 weeks, and I photographed there, and I photographed people and places. And as people may know, Istanbul is along the Bosphorus River. It divides the city of Istanbul and also divides two continents, Asia and Europe. And I was photographing back then, naturally, film, black and white film, color slide film. And the first week was an organized tour. It was a Jewish group. We were seeing both Istanbul as a city and also seeing some of the Jewish sites and meeting the Jewish community. And then I opted to stay an additional week. And I photographed in black and white, I photographed in color, slide film, and I definitely would go back sometime. Before I went to Istanbul, I went to Barnes & Noble, to the bookstore, to be able to purchase 2 tourist books so I can learn some words and some phrases. And I thought that that would help me. I wanted to be able to communicate with people. I didn't think I'd get really, really far, and I didn't get as far as I wanted to, but I was able to at least count to 5 and to say things like good morning, günaydın, good evening, iyi akşamlar, and thank you, teşekkür. Yes is evet. I won't go through everything I learned. And even more complicated things like ne iş yapıyorsunuz, what is your job, or bu ne kadar bugün, how much is this? And so I found that it helped in terms of rapport, and I've found when I've traveled, and even locally, where close to where I live, that when you speak someone else's language, they appreciate it. It's a sign of respect. So I look forward to sharing some of the photographs and telling you more about what you're looking at and also some of the photographic considerations. I'm not going to get very technical, but I'll certainly try to relay some of what I experienced as a photographer back in 1997 in the city of Istanbul, an exotic city where I will go back someday, definitely, to see it again, see it further, and to try to take images that I didn't take then, and to take it also based on where I am today as a photographer. And looking forward to that. Nothing planned, but in the meanwhile, for all of us, here are photographs of Istanbul with explanation. Pictures from 1997. These are laser copies made on a Canon color laser copier. These are photographs that I'm going to show you the actual prints for. But at least you'll get a quick overview of the images. Three women sitting alongside the Bosphorus River, and that is the river that separates the European and the Asian side of Istanbul. It actually separates the European and Asian side of Turkey too. People on the bus. And this is a photograph of 2 sisters. I was out with the group, I saw them, and I think it is near the, I forgot the name of the mosque, but near the Egyptian Bazaar, I think so. Look at the, again, this is 1997, so do the math, all right? Look at that outfit. A lot of pigeons. This is also near the Egyptian Bazaar. And that would be the same mosque that we just saw through the gates. Okay, I think that this is the synagogue in Kuzgunchuk. I believe it is. I'm going to zoom in and see what the writing is on the Ark cover. This is called the Ark. And Kuzguncuk is, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a ferry ride away from Istanbul. It's part of Greater Istanbul. It's a certain neighborhood. I also photographed in the cemetery there. It's hard to read, but what it basically says is that this is dedicated, Nikdash Lekila Kadosha, to the holy congregation of Kuzguncuk, from Meit Hadon, from the man, and then it gives a name like Fudmin or Furmun. And this is the same man before that we saw in a horizontal shot, so here he is with in a vertical photograph. And he's got multiple dishes here. I'm really not sure why. I don't understand why he can't, if he's feeding the pigeons, why he can't just feed them from one dish. I don't know. And we see the woman here that she's taking a picture. So I'm not the only one. Okay, here's a vertical photograph of women, and I can't tell you the context, but they are all wearing a very, very similar head covering. And then that is broken up visually by the one handbag here that we see of this woman. And this here is a jewelry store in the Egyptian Bazaar or nearby, if I remember correctly. And the customers are, of course, women. But I'm sure they get at times men also in the store. Also in the Egyptian Bazaar area, so the man is showing a pot to the women, cooking pot. You see a lot of pots here. This is a detail of a photograph. There are stores here. You see the mannequins in the window. You see the Turkish flag. Some of the traffic, not much. School children. Kids like to be photographed. This is now, I guess I'll call it downtown. I don't think they call it that, but it's near the Bosphorus River. It's one of the stations. And I took this photograph Friday morning at a mosque. They are outdoors, I guess in the courtyard. They take their shoes off out of respect for. Along the Bosphorus, I'm on a ferry and I'm taking a photograph on the ferry. This is the bird there. And here's a picture of a ferry. I'm not on a ferry now, I don't believe. I think I'm on shore. This is a ferry coming in. It's used for, not just for tourists, this is for commuting. People commute with the ferry. There are cars too, but the ferry travels and stops at various parts of Istanbul alongside the Bosphorus River. It's a very big river. Okay, this is part of the photograph, dusk time, and this is the full image. Okay, we're back actually to the beginning. I'm going to look now in the laser copies to see if there are any images there that are not in the stack of prints. Images that I took that I just didn't include all the prints together in the same place. We're going to find out. Yeah, the answer would be yes. Okay, this is an image of the Bosphorus seen from an elevated height. Two sides of the Bosphorus. This photograph here. You see in the distance what's called Galata Tower. Okay, we did see that actually. Just going to flip through and see if there's something here additional to share. One of the mosques, I think it's the mosque down near the Egyptian Bazaar. So, we spoke about Kuzguncuk, so I said I had taken photographs in the Jewish cemetery there, and this is a scene. I'll point out something I think is interesting. They put there like a photograph inside of It's a little cameo of a photograph of the person who's deceased at an earlier age, usually. You see that there. Here's a photograph taken through a bus window. I found the woman interesting, her pensive or contemplative type of... Maybe that's what people do in a bus. They just sit there, they think sometimes. Fish is definitely a popular menu item, and that's with the river and all. So here are some sort of, I don't know if they're sardines, but we'll call them sardines for the sake of it. Again, the color photographs were taken on slides, and they were then converted using what's called an internegative. Converted, usually using an internegative, not always, converted to print form, and then these are laser copies, so they're not a photograph. They're using a different process. We went to an island off of Istanbul called Bayukada. And actually we went there to see it, but also because that was a vacation spot for Jewish community. Not the only vacation spot, not only for Jewish people, but it's something that was told to us as a vacation spot. We took carriage rides. Well, also from an elevation overlooking the Bosphorus River. I'll zoom in a bit. Here's the river, here's a bridge that crosses it. And here is a fabric merchant at the Egyptian bazaar, proudly displaying his wares. Now, again, they don't speak English per se, maybe a little bit. So I use my basic universal language, gesturing, smiles. They see the camera, he's proud of his stuff. I did ask him to unroll a ream. I direct people sometimes. And when I look at the photograph, I try to guess, what age is he in the photograph? I mean, my guess could be, I don't think he's in his 60s yet. I think he could be later 50s. So that means today he is, all right, so he could be 80 years old, in that range, give or take. Pretty impressive stairs. More interesting are these stairs, which I found when I walked in near the Galata Tower area. I walked into an apartment building, I just saw these stairs, and I created this photograph, something that's geometric, because it's already there for me. The stairs are geometric. That's how you frame it. Circular stairs. I think one of my best ones from Istanbul, at least the experience was quite interesting. I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to keep it a secret. I'm going to try to get this straight to show you the photograph firstly. It's called, appropriately so, Two Women in Istanbul. And Two Women in Istanbul was also taken near Galata Tower, again, which is on the other side, depending upon where you're standing, of the Bosphorus. And this road here, it's a road, cars could go on it, but it was hardly trafficked. And I was lying on the road on my stomach because I had set up my scene with the tall apartment buildings, tall relatively speaking, a lot of shadow, laundry crossing on top, and I was waiting for the passerby. So some men walked by, there might have been a vehicle, but this is the image that really was most meaningful to me because of, again, the two women. So you got two, which is a certain level of strength, and they're dressed traditionally in the hijab, head coverings, and they're walking away from us. Sometimes we photograph people walking towards us, but other times we photograph them walking away. And because there are people in the image, because of that, we're led into the image. We feel, I say this all the time, we feel the trajectory of the people. We feel the path more than if we just had the path alone. So this is 1997. This is what Istanbul looked like, at least part of Istanbul looked like. There are other images I took too, but these I felt were my most interesting, my best work. And I said, and I say again, I would go back sometime and not just compare it, but just to go back and to see what I can do today